So what other things should I stockpile? Hey everybody, this is Michael with Asymmetrical Preparedness. In the last couple of videos we talked about dry goods to stockpile, things with a really long shelf life. And then the next video is about canned goods. We cover food a lot in the prepping community, which we should all understand makes sense. That's important. That's living insurance. All this prepping is living insurance. It is just like life insurance, but this is what will actually keep you alive. So food obviously is very important. Water is also very important. Maybe I'll do a video about that because I feel that water is not as emphasized in the community as it should be, maybe, because we have to have water more often than we need food. So that's something to think about. But this video is about what other things should I prep. Food, water, certain things are just common sense. It makes sense. Well, this whole prepping thing is common sense, and some people still don't get it. So there's no such thing as common sense anymore. I think it's just sense, because it's not that common. But anyway, I'm thinking of random things, those etc. preps, you know, that I put in etc. prep boxes. Like stuff to start fires, shelter, cordage, stuff like that. So let's talk about some of the stuff I wrote down. Spray paint is one of the good ones to keep on hand. I like keeping earth tone, flat or ultra flat spray paint on hand. Why? Because if the world really goes to crap, I'm gonna want to make sure that, especially my bug out vehicle, any kind of vehicle that I'm getting out there in is as non-noticeable as possible. So, meaning the signature of it. And when I'm driving through the woods, I don't want shiny, I don't want bright colors, stuff like that. So I have extra spray paint to spray paint my vehicle, camper, whatever I need to do. Some of my gear, yeah, so extra spray paint is a really good thing to have. And it helps, you know, weatherproof things, keep them operating, all that kind of stuff. Simple. Lighters is another one. That's more of a common one, you know, because everybody knows, you know, you got to start fires. So lighters are the easy way to do it. Flint and steel, you could throw in there also. You know, there's 9-volt battery and that fine steel wool, not the coarse steel wool. The coarse steel wool will not work. And finding the fine steel wool that doesn't have that blue crap in it, like the cleaner stuff already in it, is difficult. So if you find steel wool, the fine steel wool without that blue or any kind of cleaners or detergents in it, get it, because it's hard to find. Another good one is maybe less talked about, but baling wire. Baling wire. I use it for lots of things. I've used it to build raised beds. The raised bed right in front of me that I'm looking at is the one that I drove aluminum, or not aluminum, but the galvanized steel fence posts into the ground. And then I drilled holes in the metal roof panels left over from our metal roof. And then I used baling wire to attach, basically sew it onto the posts to make a raised bed. But it has lots of different uses. Lots of uses in the garden, lots of uses for repairing things. You can use it, I wouldn't use it for tripwires necessarily because it's really noticeable. You'd notice that. But you could use it for tangle wire. I talk about that on Patreon. I did a video about tangle wire there and how it's a delay feature for security purposes. If you haven't checked out Patreon, check us out. It's $1 a month. I mean, a lot of good content there. Links in the description below. So yeah, go check that out. But this is a little more common one. Nails and screws, bolts, nuts, washers, all those kind of things. One thing I do is anytime I'm getting rid of something, like taking it to the dump or something like that, whether it's an appliance, whether it's electronic something, whether it's furniture, if it's anything that has nuts, bolts, screws, nails, anything like that, maybe not nails, I won't go through and remove all the nails, but I will go through and I'll remove a lot of the stuff. Anything I think is useful. If it has hinges on it, I'll take the hinges off. The knobs, like the doorknobs, anything like that, the little parts and pieces that I might be able to use for future use, to build or to make something. If the world falls apart, you're not going to have the availability of all these little parts and pieces, and they may come in handy someday. They come in handy for me all the time. I go to my man box, that's what I call it. I throw all my stuff like that in it, to build raised beds, to repair stuff, to work on stuff. If I'm missing a bolt, I dropped it, I can't find it, something like that. Yeah, having something like that is very, very valuable. Here's another one it may be fairly common, but hand and foot warmers. Yes, I know it's spring. We're going to be getting into summertime soon, so we're not really thinking about that right now. But it's something that, cold weather, it could be a game changer right there. It could be a lifesaver. So think about hand and foot warmers. Something good to have. This is a good one. I love these. Some of my favorite products. Actually, I'll talk about two of them. But right now, I'll start off with duct tape. Duct tape is awesome. I've used duct tape for a lot of different things. I remember once four-wheeling back in the day, and we used a ratchet strap and heavy-duty zip ties, and duct tape to bring a Ford Bronco that had busted its front axle, trailing arm, relocation arm, whatever that arm is called, I forget. But the front had busted off. So we basically used it to pull the axle into the joint, and since it wasn't retained, and then he was able to get not only off the trail, but going on the highway. And then he started taking off at like 60 miles an hour on the highway. I'm like, you gotta be crazy, dude, but hey, it held. It worked fine. So I mentioned duct tape, but I also mentioned another thing, one of my favorites, zip ties, especially the heavy duty ones. You can put them together, make a big loop, and then put the other one through, make it and hook it together, and make another big loop, and you can use those as flexi cuffs. If you need to handcuff somebody, restrain somebody, you can use them on their feet, you can use them on their legs, you can use them on their arms, their hands, all those kind of things. But zip ties have a lot of uses in, holding tarps together, repairing tents. There's just so many different uses for zip ties. Zip ties and duct tape are two of my favorite things, as well as, like I mentioned, ratchet straps. That's another thing. It's actually not on my list, but now that I thought about it, ratchet straps are very, very useful in a lot of different things. One thing comes to mind is putting stuff on top of your vehicle and strapping it down, or strapping down loads on your pack, or whatever it means. Ratchet straps definitely got to be on this list. Let me see. Batteries. A lot of the devices we use have batteries. Some of them have rechargeable batteries, so make sure you have a way to recharge those batteries via just one of those little mini solar panels or something like that. Or if you have generators, there's different ways to go about doing it. You can charge it in your vehicle, have a bunch of different options for charging the devices you need, like handheld ham radios, GMRS, FRS, your communications, as well as maybe the cell phone, like I'm talking to a sideways Android right now. If it's an EMP thing, we may not have some of those things, but have batteries or a way to charge those rechargeable batteries. Let me see. Oh, super glue. I use super glue all the time. Most of the time, honestly, to repair toys for our little one. But super glue can have a lot of different applications, also repairing things. And since I'm talking about super glue, I don't think it's on the list. No, it's not on the list. But another one of my favorite products is shoe goo. You can repair your shoes, you can repair tents, you can repair tarps, anything you want to keep water out of. You can use it as a caulk around the edges of something to keep the water from getting in. A lot of different uses for shoe goo. So shoe goo's got to be on the list. Another thing I thought about, I don't know if anybody's ever talked about this on a prepping channel, but penetrating oil. That's special oil that's designed to get into cracks, crooks, and crevices and loosen it up. Old bolts, nuts, stuff like that. Thinking specifically working in a vehicle, especially in the undercarriage, where you may have rust. Those bolts may not have been messed with for a long time. And if you've ever worked on a vehicle, you gotta have penetrating oil. It's just one of those things. Anything outdoors that you're working on, it could come in very useful. So those are the things I talked about. So there are lots of other things that could have made the list, but those are some of the very important ones. I also mentioned like 550 cord cordage, tarps can be on that list. I love having extra tarps, shelter. I use them all the time also, as well as chain link fence stuff like posts. The wires go between them, the fence fabric itself. There's a lot of different things. You can go different routes, whether you're thinking about like the bugging out route, there's a lot of stuff you can get. If you're thinking about the security stuff, there's a lot of other stuff you can get. If you're thinking about home repair or maintenance, there's a lot of things that you can stockpile that fall into the etc. category. But those are some of the ones that I was thinking about, some of the things I noted, I jotted down in my little pocket brain here. But I appreciate you guys. Thank you very much for being here. Welcome to all the new subscribers. It seems like we're kind of picking up steam again. I was off and, you know, I was getting that burnout big time. I had to take a step back, but hopefully I'm back now. And I love you guys. I really appreciate you guys. Have a wonderful day and blessings to you and yours.